All right, Mr. Leon, we are live. Welcome to the Everyday Mulemanship podcast, you guys. Thanks for being here today. I got my buddy Leon Raber on, and this is kind of a quick last minute deal. I'm hanging out in Wisconsin right now, at some friend's house, and we had posted on social media that we were looking for somewhere to go after this on our way to Ohio. And Leon just reached out, and it was funny because I had Leon on my list of folks to call this week to record some podcasts. So your ears must have been burning, Leon, because I it was perfect. So thanks for letting me trap you and get you on the show.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Anybody's
appreciate
kind of
it.
by surprise, but yeah,
Yeah, we'll
thank
get
you.
you on here. So give you just a little break from riding for just a minute and let you sit in the shade, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah,
So let's see, Leon, I believe I met you at a clinic. I think it was I did a clinic at the Reese Brothers Mule Cell like way back. Um, I think it was 2015 or something, and or 16, and I think that's where I met you. Is that right?
yeah. That's my that's that's been a while ago. That's the first time I seen of you, heard of you. I didn't even know much about you then, but yeah, I met you there. Sale.
Yep. That was a long while back now. And then, I don't know a lot about you, but I do know that you produce some nice mules, and I've seen the mules that you've brought out to, Bryce Canyon Mule Days, and that Chrome in the Canyon sell and everything, and you got some dang nice mules. You've had a lot of success out there at that sell, and I kind of want to get into that a little bit in a minute. But before we dive in too much, Leon, why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners, people that might not know you, and just tell us about you and your family and what you do, and let's go down that road.
Well, me and my wife, we have Lost Mule Company. It's just we got married here in March this year, so it's been a little bit of a hectic year this year already, and the sales, but we've known each other for all our lives. We grew up together and just about a half mile down the road. But she's always ridden. I've been always been riding and kind of got her introduced to mules and um I mean a little bit my childhood history. My dad had mules and um we've always grew up around horses, mules, and more driving than riding. But not much history on there. It's just the two of us. But we have Lost Mule Company. We train a lot of outside horses and mules. Um, we kind of a little bit any aspect. We do a little bit of lessons here and there. Not much there to talk about. Um, yeah, we've been just been blessed so far as how much we were able to do and get done in our in training. So
Oh, heck yeah. Well, the mules I've seen you bring to the sales, they sure tell a different story about what we could talk about, man. You do a good job. They look pretty dang nice. So that's a big journey going from, you're in Ohio, right?
yeah,
So going from Ohio all the way out to Utah to that sale, that's kind of a big deal.
it is. It's always a high stress time for us. I mean, it's it's a far trip for us. It's 38 hours. Getting ready, get going, all the time we put in them beforehand, and not knowing what will happen on the trip, and it's definitely a stressful situation on us. But we enjoy it every year. We enjoy going out, meeting the people, talking to people, and enjoy the country out there. Basically, we love the ride out there.
Yeah, it's
Oh
pretty cool. I'm blessed to have that in my backyard.
yeah,
It's awesome country. There's a lot of riding there. That'll dang sure, that country's made for mules, and man, you make good ones out there for sure. So,
yeah.
uh what's your process like for picking these mules out, like, because this is a big deal for you. This is a big journey. I mean, you're not just picking any old mule out of these Saturday auctions at home. what are you doing? Where are you finding these mules? Or are you raising them? What's going on?
Well, really, it yeah, we're looking for mules, but like on the eastern end here in Ohio, like a lot of the mules I've been just lucky to pick up, and people that I know that had the mules a long time, people I know of, people I trust. Um, I'm trying to think back right now. I think I sold maybe two mules at that sale that I didn't know all the history or almost all the history on them. And where I find them, it's just I have people calling me I know of, or I've seen the mules ride for a couple of years, known the people. Um, I mean, what we try to do is, I mean, the process after we buy them, even if we know the mules, um, we might give them off for 2 months before we even ride them. We might ride them a couple of times, 5, 6 times, and we might let them put them out in the pasture for 2, 3 months, get them back in, and and just see what they are, just like a customer would, they to make sure they have confidence, leave them off 2, 3 months, and then we start training on them. And um, I had one little hiccup with a mule this year, and we ended up not taking him. Um, I thought I did my research with him and everything, and he was an okay mule, but he just wasn't that type of mule to take to a sale like Cromley Canyon. Um, he just was not consistent when you left him off for 2, 3 months. I mean, we take a lot of pride in the mules we take out there. We're not, like you said, we're not buying mules out of the sale just to take to that sale. Yeah, we'll buy a mule at a sale here and there. Um, but what I look for at the sale, they don't need to be, they don't need to be the best broke mule in the world, but they need to be mules that I can see I can make a change in, that that will be able to make something into that in a year or two. Um, we try not to buy any mules that we had to put more than 2 years of riding on. Then you're just we try to buy mules that don't have any problems or big problems or concerns when we start with them. Um, that's kind of where we go on the buying end of it. But now this year, looking into next year, like from one year's sale to the next, we already have the mules usually. Some of them we buy and put about a year right after the sale. There's a couple that I know of that I don't want that many mules standing around at the time, that I'll buy them right after sale. From the for the next year's sale, but they're usually mules that we know of, and we put a couple months, I mean, hard riding on them. Um, then we leave them off for a month, 2 weeks, month, and we pull them back out, and we try to do all sorts of things with them. We haul them around, we trail ride, we do a little bit of roping on them. We go to some small shows, get them exposed. We learn to haul, to tie, and behave themselves out on the trail and all that kind of stuff. Um, I mean,
You know,
and to look in,
you said something there. Sorry to interrupt you there, right? But
yeah,
you said something earlier that I think is just really awesome. I like how you're saying you're giving these animals a couple of months off to see what they're like when you ride them again, because holy cow, you know as well as I do at these sales, there's a lot of folks just hot rodding these mules, and they
yep,
just ride the crap out of them right before the sale. And you
yep,
know, it's kind, you know, some of these sales, you know, I do a lot of clinics at a lot of these sales, right? And so I'm there 3 or 4 days before the sale. So I'm seeing folks that show up early, and I'm seeing them run their mules around, freaking just loping them all day long, burning them up. And then, you know, the sale comes, and then people are like, oh, that mule's so quiet. Well, I wonder why,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
And so to be able to give them time off, and then you come back and you see them, you know, what are they like, you know, after that time, you know, because, you know, let's face it, the average person that's buying these mules at a sale, you know, they're not riding every day. They're weekend warriors
yeah,
probably at best, and maybe not even that, maybe just you know, a couple times a month. And so a mule that can sit and take that time off and then you can saddle up and get on it, that is something really special. So I think that's really cool you do that.
Well, and like for me, what I want to do with, and people, I see it all the time with bringing training meals in for training. Um, I hear people getting hurt on them, and they've been in the hospital, they've been doing this, they've been doing that, and the craziest, most biggest thing I probably learned from doing this is a couple years ago, I thought I had some really good broke mules, but for me, I'm riding all the time. Like I'm riding every day. I was riding them every single day. I sell them to somebody, and I thought they were, really broke mules. Well, they get home and they ride them once a month, every 2 3 weeks, maybe go for an hour ride, and uh, and they just have all sorts of problems with them. And I'm like, I just couldn't understand it. So we started doing, we're selling to the customer. We need to make sure that they, you know, prepared for what the customer is going to do with them. And the only way to do that is leave, and right when we get them, we try to ride them, and we might do 2 weeks on them. We don't really have a schedule that we go on how long we ride them, how long we have them off, who we do this or that. But like we might ride them 2 weeks and put them out the pasture for another month or two. I want to see how they are when I buy them, not once I put 2 to 3 months of training on them. I want to see how bad their bad day is, not how good they can be all the way through. Because every mule has their bad days and every horse has their bad days, but it all depends on how bad that bad day is.
Yeah.
That's some of the process.
Hey, I like
Um,
that. That's something that will dang sure set you apart, man. Because yeah, like I was saying, there's a lot of folks that just kind of hammer on these mules and horses before they go to the
mhm,
sell, and they dang sure look good at the sell. But I think that letting
yeah,
them sit's good. And I don't know how much you know about me or what we do, but we're in our classes, we're big time teaching on how these brains work.
yeah,
And, it's amazing how much progress you can make giving them some time off.
yeah,
I like to work them for a week or two, and then I like them to be able to sit and soak. And I'm not going to go all nerdy on you and tell you all about brains here, but it's a big deal for us. I mean, that's how they
yeah.
learn. And I have these days I'm making way more progress on these mules, and I'm doing way less on them. I'm doing way
Hmm.
less, and they're getting better than they ever have been. And that soak time, I call it soak time. Let them sit, leaving them out, leave them alone. I mean, that's pretty valuable. Now, I'll say that so long as you're doing a good job to prepare them. If you're
Yeah,
riding crappy and then you let them sit, well, they're probably going to start how you left them, right? We
yeah.
always say they start where you quit last. And
Hmm.
so if you're ending on good quality work, they'll start on good quality work.
And you talking about that, we start consistently riding our mules. Like there's times through like this summer that we're all riding our mules already for this next year's sale. And you talking about that like in December for even 1st of December, 1st of January, like we're starting to ride these mules consistently, like every day for the next 4 to 5 months. Not every day. I mean, we give them a couple of days off here and there. But one thing I've noticed is we get so caught up in getting these mules. They need to be rode. We're taking them to sale. They need to be perfect. We need to get as much done. And I mean, we not say we've ruined them, but we have soured a couple of them that we were training on the right way, but we were just every day we didn't give them the break because it's all this. We've got so much on the line when we go out to that sale. We got so much time, so much money wrapped up, and these mules need to perform to a certain level. And it's just times that I mean, it's funny you say that because we like just back off just a little bit. It'll come. And another big thing is get close to sale time. I really like to have this looking a little bit better on how they're loping their circle or this or that, and you start pushing them, and because you're like, man, this really needs to happen yet before the sale time. Well, the funniest thing is if you just stay consistent on just asking, instead of just trying to tell them, push them too far, just stay consistent with them. By the time of the sale, everything just comes together. It always seems like, man, a month ago, this was just not there. And now I'm coming to the sale and it's just everything. And when I'm saying that, it's more on how handy they're riding, not as far as how safe they are. Um, but we have to always watch ourselves that we don't push them too much because it's just time and money. It's just you get caught up in society, and it's so easy to do. You need to separate that 100%. But at the end of the day, it still has to make a little bit of money, or we wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and there's kind of a weird stigma in the mule world. Like, I don't know. Like people don't want you to make money. Like like it's like
Yeah,
if you're making money at this, you're a bad guy. Like just and it annoys me so bad. I'm like, well, I really don't need to work my whole life riding these mules for free, so you can go,
yeah,
just have your nice little Saturday stroll. This is a lot of work, a lot of time, and
yeah,
I think it's hard for people because in their mind, riding mules is their hobby, where for you and I, riding mules and horses is our living. We do love it, and it is our hobby also. Like people say, well, what do you
yeah,
do for fun? Well, I ride.
yeah,
But it is our living, and we got to make some money there. And I don't know about you, but the selling game is challenging. Like when
yeah,
I was, now I'm primarily just a teacher now, and yeah, I don't make as much as I used to when I was training for the public. Uh, the best money I ever made was when I was training for the public. That's where the money was because you got your paycheck every month. You're doing the
hmm,
work. It's just, that's where the most money was made. When we got into selling mules, I think our peak year for selling mules was probably 2015. And that year we sold something like 79 mules or something like that. And all I did, I just rode from dark to dark. Like I just,
yeah,
oh my god, I never spent so much saddle time in my life. And at the end of the year, we're doing our taxes, and I made it was something like, after you average it all out, I made like $200 a head average was the
yeah,
profit. And I was like, oh crap. This is, because some of them didn't work out, and I'd give them away for free, and then, you'd do okay on one, you'd make a couple thousand on one, and then, but the next one, you just kind of give away again. And it's tough living, and especially preparing for these auctions. I mean, I'd like to hear your take on how you're picking these mules, because you got to have a dang good eye when you're buying mules, because it's kind of like real estate. You make your money on the buy, not the sell. Like
yeah,
you better buy them right so you can
yeah.
sell them right. What's your take? What are you doing buying these mules?
Well, I said that already a lot. I said you see some of these mules going in and bringing 25,000 and or 30,000 or 40,000 even at these sales, and you're like, man, really love to do that. But and it goes the same for horse sales also. Um, these people are buying these mules. You have no idea what they pay for them. Some of them they might have paid 15,000 for and put a year's riding on it and got 30,000. I mean, that's not it's profit there, but you figure in your time and the money you've got for the sale and chewing them and vet and X-rays and all that kind of stuff. You're not making a whole lot, and if I mean, and it becomes more challenging for me since and like first year I was at Cromney Canyon was in 2021. Yeah, this was our third year going there. Uh, I mean, I went to that sale when I had no expectations. Like we had no idea what we are getting into. This was the big first sale we ever went to. the big, most money ever sold for a mule before that sale was like 5,000. And we went in and our mule that we thought was going to bring the most brought 15,000, and the mule we thought that wasn't going to bring the most brought 32.5, and we ended up getting reserve seller at the first year there. And I was like, it was just, I mean, it was just crazy. Like, I've never experienced anything like it. And your my thought train on going home was like, okay, we're going to go home, buy some mules, and we're going to do this again. And that thing, mules will keep you humble, and it is that way. And I didn't go on outrageous budget on buying mules, but I went and bought mules I thought were really good, and the next year's sale wasn't quite as good for us. We still made money, but it wasn't quite like that first year was. I went back with 4 mules instead of 2. I was like, we're really going to hit the jackpot this year. And going there with a mindset like, okay, we're going to make some money this time. We went home a little disappointed, and it's just humbling, and it was good experience for us. It kept us. I'm glad we didn't have a good year, because this next year we would have went back and just, once you get doing so good and you start doing a little worse, you start trying to slip in mules that are not as good, and you buy junk, and you get all that stuff going on. And we just had a reality check, and it was really good for us. We took some good mules the second year. All the mules I knew, and all of them, 2 of them I know where they were raised. I had the one before, and it still, we had good mules, but it's just a little bit of a different budget that year on spending. And buying these mules, it gets harder and harder, because people see you getting 15,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 for these mules, and they're like, well, this thing's at least 15, 20,000 worth that much. I want 12,000 for it, or 10,000 for it. There's just no way we can pay that.
It's funny you say that, because this happens to me all the time, man. So like, people think, well, you're Ty Evans, you can sell mule for whatever you want to sell it for. And so what they'd sell it to somebody else for 5,000 bucks, and then I pull up and I want to buy it, and all of a sudden it's 10,000 bucks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, son of a gun, and then I don't know about you too, but as far as selling them goes, if you're selling mules for a little less, like you pull up to these sales and your averages are a little on the lower side, the automatic thought from the buyers is, oh, he must not sell that great of mules.
Yeah.
And then if you're the high seller or reserve, or you're the top 10 all the time, then people are like, oh, well, his mules are too expensive. You're overpaying.
And you saying that is just, people ask me all the time, what do you think I can get for this mule or that mule? I said, I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. When we go to the sale, and people ask me when we're advertising for that sale, what is your expectation? How much do you need for this mule? How much do you this or that? I'm like, I have an idea what I need for the mule. I mean, we have an expectation on what we need. We go from the purchase price to estimated how many months of training we actually put on them. Like, if we rode them 8 months, 9 months, obviously if you have them for 2 years, they're going to be ridden on and off, on and off. You don't really know, but you do have a kind of an idea on how much time you spent with each mule. But then we put that, and if it's 12,000 or 15,000, I said, well, we've got close to 15,000 in this mule. But I said, if I think the mule's a $10,000 mule, I'm not going to try and sell it for 15. I'm going to sell it for what it needs to bring. And some of these mules, they're I might have 10,000 in them, and they're $20,000 mule. They're just a little bit better. And people ask me too is, well, how do you make the choice? And if they're a $10,000 mule or a $20,000 mule, that's a good question, but it's just small things. Is this mule trying you? Is does it want to go down and get a bite to eat of grass every time you lead it past a little patch of grass, or is it can you catch it 100% of the time? Does it really want to walk up to you and be caught, or is it one that you have to have the customer that gets attached to the mule, and the mule gets to know them, a little bit standoffish type of mule? Those mules you can't just sell to anybody. So I mean, they're safe for anybody, but there's just different caliber, and do they lope really nice? Do you have a lot of time in the arena? Do they have a lot of arena work? Are they really safe on the trail? This, and it's just small things. And the thing I had a question like that last summer, and it was a perfect example for this guy. He said he asked me that question, like, what's the difference between a $5,000 mule and a $15,000 mule? And he had two mules in training, and the one mule's a pretty good mule, and they're both pretty decent mules, but they're not the greatest mules in the world. They if I spend a year of training just training on them, they both make really nice mules. But they're just trail riding mules. They're decent broke. They're safe. But and he's kind of attached to them. He can do anything with them that he wants to in his category. And I said, well, would you sell your mule for 10,000? He said, no. I said, well, why not? He said, well, I don't know where to get another one. And I was like, that's a perfect example. We're doing this for a living. If you go to try to buy a mule, let's say from a guy who just trail rides on the weekends and doesn't care about training a mule, he's not interested in training the next mule to be that type of mule, you're not going to be able to go buy that mule for 15,000. They're just going to say no, because I said, well, where are you going to get another one? And that's what it comes down to. These are the same caliber mules, but we do sell them for a living, and you can buy them. They're just a little more scarce.
Yeah, it's interesting because you know, when you're, I guess what I tell people about auctions is, you know, when you buy a mule at auction, you have to realize that you wanted that mule more than anybody else, and you were willing to pay more for it than anybody else. So the price you pay at that auction, you people need to realize that is more expensive than the mule's worth. Like, they'll ask, well, okay, well, that mule sold for 20 grand. Do you think it's worth that? And I said, well, to that person it was, but to the person that they were bidding against and to everybody else at that auction, it wasn't. It was not worth 20,000. So, and auctions are interesting that way because, they play with a lot of emotions for sure. And I think people's competitive behavior kicks in. And so, yeah, auctions are interesting. They're an interesting dynamic. Something along the lines of that, Leon, is, we don't need exact numbers here, so don't give me that. But, what, as a seller, because a lot of my podcast listeners they are professionals, and something that is difficult in this business is how much money to make. Like, how much of a percentage or how much of a profit are you wanting to make on each mule? Like, what? And I wish there was an industry standard here. It's like if you look at real estate, a typical real estate agent, usually somewhere around 3%, give or take, whatever. Usually around 3% is what most of them make it seems like. And I know that just because my family's in the Sky's family's in the real estate world. So I see that. But that's their like commission on being a broker, I guess. But, they're basically selling it, for the person and representing it. They're not actually building the house, and, they're not actually doing the work to make that house. They're just selling it. That's all they do. And they make about 3% commissions. Okay, so now you take a mule and you buy it with your own money that you could have had sitting in an investment somewhere else, right? You could have been making interest on that cash. Let's just say $10,000. So you take your own money, you invest 10 grand, but then not only are you investing your own money, but you're investing your own time. You're working, you're putting your time into this, your effort into this. Your gear is being used, your truck, your trailer, your saddles, your bridles, you're paying vet bills, and then, consignment fees. plus you still pay a commission to the auctioneers, right? So, I mean, we got money going everywhere. So, I think it's interesting because there is no industry standard here. Like, okay, well, a typical somebody that sells meals ought to be making 10%, 5%, two, what would it be? Do you have kind of something in your mind as far as a business scale that you're looking for?
I do not. I absolutely do not. I had when, like I said, the second year we went to Chrome Canyon, I was really thinking about slowing down on the training end of it and really pushing our mules for selling. And we did some horse sales too. We had some horses and good luck in the horse sale, but the prices dropped a little bit after COVID. That stuff went skyrocket. The mules and horses went crazy, and everything went crazy, and everybody knew. Well, I knew anyway. Most people around here, they knew sometimes the market's going to drop just a little bit, and after that, it did drop a little bit that year, but after that sale, we we do our training for our money. That's where we make our money. And I said, if we buy a mule, let's just say for instance for 4,000, and we sold it for 15,000. Okay, we'll figure in a year's feed, trim and feed. This is just close figures. I should know it a little bit better, but if you get too technical with it, you quit. I mean, if it's just like ranching and cows. I mean, it's hard to make a living doing it, but we have a good idea on how much money we put into it by the time of the sale. And I said, we get anything over that, we'll count it as a profit. I said, we enjoy doing it. We enjoy selling good mules. These mules we can ride for a year, year and a half, 2 years. And for the mules that we have right now for next year, we've raised some of them. Another other mule I had in training, I started it and did all the training on it. So like we can take them on, and we know these mules for a couple of years, and that's where I get paid. When once the money, yeah, we get paid for that. We get our expenses paid. We make a little bit of money, but the experience we get to go to Utah, we get to meet new people. Um, we get to ride out there. I said, how cool is it? We can go out there. This is our job. We're on the road. We're going. So like as a percentage wise, if you really get technical with it with horses and mules, and that's where a lot of these people take some of these mules that aren't really broke because they bought this mule, they thought it was a good mule. Turns out they weren't, sold to them honest. They were either drugged, they were rode hard, like you were saying, a couple of days before the sale, and they take it to the next sale. Well, they need to make money. They need to make at least this amount of money, and it just makes dishonest sellers. If you really look at the percentage wise, um, and I just quit kind of looking at it, and
Yeah.
we have a good idea, and we only sell 3 or 4 meals a year. That's all we sell,
Mhm.
and I mean, if I can sell a meal, this is my mindset. If I can sell this meal and say, okay, this meal has, it's a little bit standoffish. It might not look at it at sale because it's in the pen and all this and that. But if it's out in the big pasture, like it might be one of the last meals you catch. Like not hard to catch, but it's just not the best meal to catch, and they're not right in your pocket. And you can't get a customer that you see that they really don't want that type of meal. You talk to them for a while, you get to know them, and you're like, well, I just don't think this meal is actually the meal for you. And right there, you lost $2,000 by saying that. And for me, I'd rather sell one for 12,000 and have a really happy customer tickled to death instead of selling it for 15 or 18,000 and have a customer call me and I'm like, okay, it has this problem, that problem, and I cannot get along with this meal. And so that's why that 3%, knowing percentage wise on what I make is no phone calls, no hassles. it's worth that for me. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, I'm out in Utah, and I'm in the ranching world a lot, and there's a kind of a movement, and it sounds kind of like an oxymoron, but there's education on ranching for profit, and and like I said, that might sound kind of contradictory, right? Ranching and profit, but it's a big change because for so long, people in agriculture are they're really not making money. And then now generations down the road, I mean, the next generation doesn't want it. They'd rather go get a job in town and actually make a living, and get along. So a lot of it is about lifestyle too. But that's kind of why I asked you that. That is the very thing that drove me away from selling mules myself, because I'm business minded and I analyze things like that, and I figure out, oh my gosh, I'm not making anything here. So these days, whenever I sell a mule, my I guess, because I know you really don't make any money on it. My thing is, this is representing what I make. Now, I don't buy mules and ride them for just a year and sell them generally. There's some that I do. If they're not going to fit me, I don't really, if I don't want them, or really if somebody wants it more than I do, then I'll sell them. But like
Hmm.
we buy a lot of weanlings and then we'll raise them up, and I make bridle mules. I'm not sure how familiar you are with all that process, but that's what I'm into. So I'll start them in a snaffle bit, ride them in a snaffle for a couple of years. Then I go to a hackamore for a year. And then I go to the two rein for about a year. And then I'm in the bridle, and by that point, they're usually 8 years old. So now I've put in 8 years of, of time. And so, I mean, really, if we're being honest, there's no way anybody would pay me the money that I've put into
Yeah,
them as far as my time and effort goes. And I mean, even just paying for feed would be hard for a lot of people to
yeah,
pay for that many years, especially Utah prices of feed. And so it's really challenging. So to me, when I sell a mule, which is rare these days, it is basically just representing what I do and who I am. And that kind of leads me to another question. And I think it'd be the same thing for you, really, to promote your training program. And I mean, I know that's your bread and butter. And for me, when I was training and selling, the training was for sure where the money was, and it still is. That's where the money is in this world, I think. But when you sell a mule, when you take them to these, like Chrome in the Canyon, take them to these auctions, and you sell a mule, what what are you hoping that that mule represents? Like, what qualities do you want people to see in that mule that represents who you are? Like, is there things like that that you're hoping for?
yeah. Can you hear me pretty good? I was trying to cut off.
Yeah, it's cutting out a little bit. Did you hear my
Can you
question?
hear me?
I can hear you a
Yeah,
little
I
bit.
did. Oh, no. I hope feels good. Uh,
Oh, we lost him. Hopefully he'll jump back on here real quick. Internet connection. So sorry about that. We'll get him back on here. He's working at it.
hey, now I'm back.
Ah, you're back now. Sorry we lost you. Did you hear what I was saying?
Yeah, I did. Um, kind of looking what to represent and all that. I've been to these sales a lot, and horse sales, mule sales, these monthly sales, and you look at these mules and horses, and you see them go into the ring, and they're nothing doing but punching on them. Yes, up, heads up. I mean, they might spin around, they might stop, they might lope a circle, but my biggest thing I want to bring out in the mule sale is just quiet training, quiet hands, quiet all the way through, and we're working on getting them handy broke. Like it's representing us. Like when I'm at the sale, I'm really not thinking on representing the mule or training or anything like that. We're just basically there showing. I love to show people what mules can do and how relaxed and how um um good ride they can be. Not just this old sale barn mule that you just kick around and punch on. And it does represent, some of the training. But if we're in Utah, it's so far away. Most of the mules that we sell out there to customers, we won't ever get any training back of it. But I enjoy, like for me, I enjoy. I want to keep bringing mules to these sales. And what for me, the biggest thing is I want repeat customers. Like I want the customer going home and being satisfied. The rewarding part for me is, a year later I might be at the sale, or 6 months, even this last sale, the guy bought a mule from us the year before, and he bought mules at J. Clark. He's bought horses from well-known people, this and that, and he said, I just never had any luck buying a mule or a horse at a sale, and or buying horses really. He said, I just had so much bad luck with it. And last fall he emailed me, and we actually delivered. He was in um, Grand Junction, and so we went basically right past his place on the way home. So we dropped the mule off at his place and stayed overnight. And really nice guy. We got to know him pretty good. And the next year, um, this spring actually, he emailed me and said, if we need a place to stay, you know, he's more than welcome to stay at his place. And on the way out to the sale, and he ended up showing up at the sale. And this is after he had him for a year. He said, I mean, how much he loved that mule and how much he got along with it. And he said, I'm here to look at one guy's mules, and that was me. I said, I'm looking for another mule fit my program, what I do and how I ride. And he said, he's got one guy in mind. And for that, it's just reputation, and not necessarily on training. It's more on me as a person, and I guess in a way, if I tell somebody it's one way, that's how it's going to be. Like that's what I mean, and that's actually how it's going to be. If you get this mule home, and I say 90% of the time she'll walk up to you out in the pasture, that's what I mean. It's to be straight up and honest with everything I sell or do, and how I live and how I train. Um, there's no behind the scenes thing. I don't have nothing to hide, and it's a reputation. Yeah, it probably helps the training, and people relying on me for getting the training done. But basically, how people look at me when I'm at the sale, or not at the sale, or in person, I guess. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but
Yeah, I think it's important, uh it's kind of like your house. They say you don't ever own your house until you sell it, because if you ever moved into somewhere new, they always call it by the last person. That's the old Johnson house, right? You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's never yours until you sell it. And when you sell it to the next person, they'll say, "Oh, that's the old Raber house." But it seems like it's kind of like that with the animals. Um, it seems like folks are quick to, if if anything goes wrong and they don't get along with the
Mhm.
animal, it's always the guy they bought it from or the guy who trained it. It's always
Yeah.
their fault. If it's good, sometimes you'll get the credit, but at least you don't get the blame, I guess.
It's
if
like
you,
getting a loan at the bank. Um, it's hard to get good credit, but if it's not too hard to get bad credit. I mean, it's
yeah, that's
just miss
right.
one or two payments. You can make payments straight through for 10 years, and you miss four payments in that 10 years. I mean, you got bad credit,
Yeah.
you know.
You know, something that happens a lot in my clinics. This just happened last week up here in Wisconsin. Somebody brought a mule, and of course they tell me who they bought it from, and they go on tell me how much they don't like the person or whatever. And I actually know the person really well. And they said, "Oh, I hope you don't take sides." And I say, I do take sides. I take the mule side, and it might not work
Mhm.
out for either one of you, the seller or you, because I'm on the mule side here. And what was happening in that relationship was, a huge miscommunication.
Mhm.
The person was not communicating correctly to the animal. They weren't working together well. And I think what happens a lot of times is when somebody buys a mule, that they're so it's so easy to blame the person they buy it from. It's so easy to do it that they don't take responsibility for their own actions. And I just helped this lady. I'm like, hey, you know what? The way you're going about doing a lot of these things, you're just not helping that mule out. If you just change some of your things, it can help the mule out. And on the other side of the coin, with the seller, I know the seller, and I know how they train, and I know what they do, and they're not making handy mules. They're just making mules that are gonna just poke down the trail. Like, they're just a bunch of trail plugs, which are not I'm
Mhm.
not fans of, so I was trying to also tell this person that, listen, it wasn't that the seller was misrepresenting the mule at all. It's just that the things you're asking the mule to do, I guarantee you the seller never asked it to do it. The seller
Mhm.
never engaged that. These guys know that, hey, I'm just selling to somebody that's gonna plod down the trail, and they don't put that time into it. So I said, see, I mean, I'm on the side of the mule. I'm not on your side. I'm not on the seller's side here. I'm all about the mule or the horse. And but I run into that a lot. Something else that I see, quite a bit, is somebody will buy a mule that somebody like yourself has done a good job on. And I've seen the mules that you bring to Utah, and you do a good job of getting them light and handy, not just slamming them around like a lot of guys do, but you do a good job. I've
Mhm.
seen them. And so somebody will take a mule like that you've done a great job on, and you have decent timing, and you've worked on all these things with this mule, and they'll get them, and they have poor timing, and they're asking the wrong questions at the wrong time, or maybe the right questions at the wrong time. And now they're taking something that was really light and responsive. And just a few months later, it's braced up, and they say, well, geez, it wasn't like this when I bought it. It was pretty good.
Mhm.
All of a sudden, it's just not doing this. What's the deal? And a big part of the learning curve is, teaching them, I guess that's where my job kicks in. I'm there to teach them, how to get along better. And that's kind
Yeah.
of what I do. But it's kind of a tough world, in
You
the
know,
in
you
that.
saying that, and when we take train these mules to go out to Utah to the sale, or it's not just that sale, but that's our main sale. We don't sell in a lot of other sales. Like, I mean, it maybe one or two, and it might not be the best meal in the world. It just we need to have an outlet for some of those meals also. But we sell them the sale as is. Here we go. But like when we go to the sale, like it's almost unfair to the mules, but when we're riding at home and training on these mules, like you had to start with to get them going, like in a spin or picking up their lead, just the basics of things, stopping with your seat, all that stuff. Like to start with, we'll use timing. We'll try to get it be in time with them, get them light, get them handy, and all that stuff. But when we before we take them to the sale, what we try to do is when we're going to the circle to the right, you pick up the right lead. You pick up the right lead, no questions asked. I'm not asking you to pick up the right lead, but we're going this circle. And we might, if they miss their lead, we'll bring them back down to a trot. We'll ask them again. If they miss the lead, we'll bring them back down to the trot. And it, in a way, is not fair to the mule, but at least we'll use timing when they pick up the right lead. It's nicer to them if we do it instead of the customer who doesn't really know the cues and all that stuff. And same with the left lead or spinning. Like eventually, we better just be able to sit even kind of center in the saddle and put your leg on, and they have an idea what this is after they had their training. They know how to spin. They've got everything down pat. They're searching for answers. Like I put a leg on them, and they have to go in a circle and spin. It might not be as pretty, but and most of the customers they won't know the difference if it's pretty or not, as long as they move off your leg. And so that's what we try to do before we take them to the sale. Yet is it, it's kind of rude to say, but we try to dumb them down to where the customer can ride. I mean, you don't have to be perfect, and it sucks to do it, but to make a good mule to sell to a customer, you almost have to do it in a way so it's fair to the mule when they get them, or the customer gets along with them. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
Yeah, yeah, and that right there is one of the other reasons I hate selling because
it,
I
it
just
it's
it
just,
goes against, everything that I do, like,
yeah.
like in my mind, so I know that the mule or the horse will always rise or fall to the level of the rider, okay? So,
Yeah.
so when I'm working a mule, like for my kids, for example, I'm trying to get them way up here that they're just so stinking light, so good because I know that when my kids get on them, they're only going to be able to get this much out of them. I'm for those
Hmm.
that you guys can't see me, I'm holding my hand a little lower now. But that's I know they're not going to get the same result. So like
Yeah.
I try to get them as sharp as I can because I know they're just going to use that knife against a rock type of thing. And
Hmm.
that's tough, and it's really hard when you put that much work into something and then
Yeah.
the person doesn't appreciate it. And I say appreciate, I don't mean like they're grateful for it. What I mean is they don't like utilize the sensitivity in the animal,
Hmm.
and then they show up at a clinic a few months later, and they're having problems, and if I think if the people would take that time and get the education on how to ride, and that's what people do, when they show up to my clinics, that's what they're wanting. They're trying to get along, trying to get better. And if they just take a little time like that, because what I see a lot of these auctions, like the one in Utah, or I go to the Salmon Select Sale every year, which is pretty fun. You ought to come out to that one too, um, in Salmon, Idaho.
I
But
can't make enough mules to do it. I love
but
to, but I don't sell enough mules to do all these
yeah,
sales. But yeah,
but
go ahead.
it's the funnest sell. It's my favorite
Really?
sell for fun. It is a good time.
Gotcha.
Anyways, I'll see people that show up there year after year, the same buyers, and they bought a mule last year from so and so, and now all they do is talk crap on that person, and and now they're going to buy another mule from this other person. I know that next year they're going to be complaining about that person, and I keep thinking, okay, person, what is the common denominator here? You bought all these mules from all these sellers, and every seller is just so terrible, right? Nobody's honest. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, what's the common denominator? It's you, buddy. They just don't take the time, so they buy a mule, kind of ruin it and move on. And I think if folks could learn a little horsemanship, a little mulemanship, it'd go a long ways. It'd go really long ways, and help a lot of people out.
Yeah. And you saying that is people bring mules in for training and they ask me questions if when they call me or they message me and all this and the bottom line is I say if you can do it yourself and get educated and do it yourself, don't bring them to me. I mean, do it yourself because if I send this mule back to you, I mean it's gonna have the same bad habits it's gonna get the same bad habits. And I tell them if you're not comfortable, and I encourage them all to do it, but there's a select very few of them that actually take my take serious in what I'm saying. But is okay. Let's say this mule has a problem bucking you off, or raring we get on, or terrible saddle, and you're 65 years old and you just don't have the ability to do this kind of stuff with them. I said, yeah, bring them to me. I mean, I'll work with them for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, however long it takes to get this mule to the level where you can handle the mule. But I said, in the meanwhile, I actually a lot of them, I send on your everyday mulemanship. It's because we like the groundwork and a lot. No, in my opinion, on as far as training, it's really hard to find two people that train exactly alike and use the same technique for every little thing. But I'm pretty close on what you use in a way. I have some other things I use, um, but I said go follow you. We'll have a lot of the same groundwork, a lot of the same ideas in my head, same things. I say follow and get educated. You have a 20-year-old mule or horse that you feel safe on. Go go home, train that horse to do this kind of stuff, just groundwork even, because most of them don't know what that even is. So go home and do this groundwork with them, and then when you get this mule back from me, I usually try to spend time with them, and they can come once a week and watch me work with it until it's good enough for them to work with it and this and that. But then they're already kind of learning and kind of know, and they can kind of if it if the big problem that it came with is very small and can be prevented by doing small things, day after day after day, and they're eligible and able to do it, they can keep on this mule in a good going in a good direction. And they're just, if not, you're just kind of wasting money. It's just not worth it. I'm
Yeah.
wasting my time and your money. It's just,
Yeah, training for the public is a whole, I mean, this is a whole nother
yeah,
deal. And like I said, as far as business goes, I think in the entire equine industry, well, especially for mules, but maybe in
yeah,
horses too. Training is the lucrative business.
yeah.
There's more profit in that than anything else. That's when I made the most in my business was training. I always
And it
teach
might be
people
the
that.
least fun.
Yeah, yeah. I always tell people, well, I made a bunch of money in training so that I could go out here and be broke teaching you guys,
Yeah.
But you know, the thing that got really challenging when I was training for the public was the short periods of time people would give you their animal,
Yeah.
and the more I learned, the more educated I got in my mulemanship and my horsemanship,
Yeah.
the longer it's taking me. Not necessarily because it's, like more difficult, but I am taking more time to do things the way I perceive as right, like, so in 30 days, 60 days, when I was working with my dad growing up, it seemed like we got a lot done. Well, that's because we was just pounding on them and hustling them through. And, my standards have changed. My standards of
Yeah.
what is a good stop, a good turn, a good back, a good lead changes, good transitions. My standards now compared to 15 years ago, totally different. And I put more
Yeah.
time into things now. And yeah, it may seem like it takes longer, but I'm doing a better job and I'm getting there faster. What what
Hmm.
what do you like to see for time in your training program? Or I guess maybe talk to us about your clients. What are most folks hiring you for?
Well, I do start quite a bit of colts. Um, Actually, this spring and this summer, winter, this first year I had an indoor arena. I had 5 years on the outside of riding through the winter and all that stuff, so I couldn't really start as many colts in the wintertime just because frost and the ground was frozen and I don't want to slip and fall. And for this winter and this summer, I started a lot of colts, and and I'm almost tired of doing that. Crawling on these colts and riding them, and some of them are 2 year olds. You put 30 days of you might put 10 to 15 rides on them, 30 days of training. Take it really slow, and or it might be 45 days. All depends on each colt. Some tougher colts I might put a little more time on, so you know get them back as a 3 year old. They have a little more success, and I have been the last 2 years have been getting these colts back after I did 30 or 45 days or sometimes 60 days on these 2 year olds, just basic stuff. Loping straight lines, maybe moving the hinds, maybe get the front to move a little bit, stopping, backing up, being good with tarp, just good equines, basically picking up feet, clipping, all that kind of stuff. And I've been getting some of these colts back as 3-year-olds and putting 60, 90 days on, which is a blast because I got had everything set up for them as a 2-year-old. But then I've got, like, right now in training, I've got 2 mules that the guy just wants more desensitized. They're gated mules. I mean, yeah, you can get them loping, you can get them side passing, all that kind of stuff. But they've been here, they'll be here 2 months. And they came with very little to no bad habits. I mean, they were just uneducated as far as arena work. And I'm okay with that. We get them kind of going, and they're side passing kind of slowly and moving the front kind of slowly, not always perfect. But then we've got a couple of them that, have problems. Just one there that's tearing away from you was one of the big problems. Nervousness on the trail, obstacles, and all that kind of stuff. And that mule I've had in since May. So we're probably hitting on 4 months of training, 4 or 5 months. And I'll have him until October. And then she's going to be taking him back and working with him. Then there'll be a couple months off, and I'll be getting him back in this fall again for 3 or 4 months in the winter. If everything goes to plan anyway. And like, that's very rare for a customer. And I don't blame them because it's a lot of money you're spending on them. But go buy a mule that's perfect, or not perfect, but doing really well and riding that way, you're spending at least almost that amount of money anyway. But customers are all different. Some people want 30 days, and most of the time now, when I started out, I took anything I possibly could. I just 30 days, I don't care, 2 weeks, whatever people gave. But now they had to be there for a month for sure. And most of the time I tell people, if they're there for a month, I'll get a lot of this stuff just barely started in a month's time. And I said, if you want it started and you take it home and take it on or whatever, I said, a month's of time, you're just kind of wasting money. It's just, I'm pretty upfront with them. I said, you're wasting money, and it's I'll do it, but I'll tell them you're kind of wasting money. That's
Yeah.
just my approach on it.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
totally
hard.
agree with you. It's not enough time to get anything going. Like,
No.
so something that's changed with me over the years, like when I think back to the beginning of my training career, pretty much when I was in high school working for my dad and on my own after that, is I was pretty mechanical. Like, it was all about the movements, like moves.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I learned and working with my mentors and people that have taught me, the more I really started caring about that mind. And now it's all about, getting to the mind. And I like to get them thinking. And some of these animals, not the colts, but some of these that you're getting in, to tune on, some of them, their minds are so dang shut off that it takes a couple of months just to get them lightened up, softened up, in the
Yeah.
mind, and get them thinking, let alone the mechanical skills. Like, and I found that the more I can get the mind to open up, the easier the mechanical skills are. If I can get
Mm-hmm.
them, softened up in the mind, then the movements come pretty dang easy. But if they're kind of shut off mentally, it's just kind of a battle. And I'm just not, these days, I'm just not willing to do that. Like, I'm not gonna just get into a gunfight with one just to get a move done for somebody,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I run into in my
And
clinics. It's hard as getting them, okay, we got 3 days. That's not much time. Okay. And some of these are so dang shut off that, I'm just working on the person, getting that person to where they can get that,
yeah.
get the mind working. But do you run into a lot of that where, maybe your clients, maybe they don't even understand that process? I'm sure you run into a lot of people that have never even heard of who I am, don't have a clue about horsemanship or
Yeah.
mulemanship. You know, how do you convey some of those messages to them?
The the question it on that topic, um, I get customers in that are saying, I've been riding my whole life. They're in their 50s, 60s, 40s. I don't know how old they are all, but they're saying, I've been riding my whole life. And those are usually the customers that can ride, usually, when they say that. Not all of them, but so, and they have this problem with this mule. They have this problem, that problem. So I kind of question them. And if they're there, this is more on when I'm doing a lesson with them, maybe. And if we get on the topic on training and how I train or whatever, I start asking them questions in a way. I had a customer here last fall, a year ago, and he always had horses and got bought the first mule. And she was trying to do groundwork with him, kept tearing away from him, kept tearing away from her. I was like, well, okay, now when you say groundwork, what are you saying that you're doing? Like, you tell me what the horse's reaction is when you do groundwork. And 90% of or 75% of the customers, they say, trotting them and loping them in a circle. That's, I said, but beside that, what are you looking for? And all these customers are doing is just, they just bring them out and lunge them. I said, that's lunging, that's not groundwork. You're just airing them out, trying to get the kinks out of them, and you make the switch from a horse to a mule. You try to do that with a mule who never had any groundwork at all. You try to lunge them in a lope. We all know what's going to happen. They're going to tear away from you, or unless you're pretty big and strong, you're going to be able to handle them. And then I start showing them on, now this is actually groundwork, and this is some of the customers, we never get that deep in a conversation, but if they don't have their mule there, some of the lesson mules are there, I tell them, okay, this is what I do for groundwork. And I've got kind of the same basic groundwork, the 3 steps, United circle, rolling the hinds, rolling the front. It's what I do on the basics of groundwork. And so I go out there and start getting them going in a circle, moving the hinds, moving the front, just kind of messing with them, get their feet moving in the direction I want them to go. And in 15 minutes, this mule just, or 20 minutes or half an hour of their feet moving, they just want to stand still. They can't believe it, and how soon they just want to stand still and quit acting like a fool. Just moving around this way, that way, and just antsing around. And like, I've never been able to get them to do that. I've been trying to lunge me, tears away from this and that, and they've had the mule for 2-3 months. I said, well, this is groundwork. If you get the feet moving in the direction you want to do, that is your idea, and you just go until you get it. You don't have to get all rough with them and trot them around and air them out to get them to be your idea. You just break it down one step at a time. And those feet go directly to the brain. And once you get the brain in the right spot, the rest, like you said, the rest is easy. It's not easy, but that's, if I go to training on a mule, that's the first thing I do. I try to get that brain in a spot where it's willing to learn, willing to go up to new obstacles, willing to do groundwork, the direction I want to go, all that stuff. I mean, it's just, I don't care if it rides with a head up and its trot is not perfect. It's not a perfect circle. I use all that kind of stuff, moving the front, moving the hinds, go walk in a circle, trot in a circle, open a circle, stopping. I use all that stuff to get them to have a good brain and good mind and a willing mind to use that stuff. But I'm not always looking for that perfect circle when I start out. I'm just looking for that brain to start spinning and asking questions. What do you want next? That's kind of a long, extended answer to your question, but that's kind of how I go about it. It all depends on the customer. And
Yeah.
some customers don't want it.
Yeah, just fix it. Just fix it and give it back working.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'll bring him back in training and I guess make more money on it. But I'm not in it just if it would be just for the money, I'd go get a job. I mean, it's not just money that I'm interested in. I mean, we can make more money working at other places.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was interesting how you'll ask your customers, you know, what were you hoping to do in your groundwork? What is groundwork to you? Um, you know, something I ask my clients, like, okay, what, and I say it usually in a sarcastic, funny voice, like, what were you thinking? No, no, literally, tell me what were you thinking? Like, I want to know what you're thinking. What did you want
Yeah.
to do? Also, I ask them, when you did that, what did you think was going to happen? You know, like what did you think the
Hmm.
outcome would be? What were you hoping? You know, what's actually interesting is how many people don't know. They're like, "Well, I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
I was just doing it. I don't know."
I went.
And and I tell them, like, if you don't know what you want and you weren't thinking about what you want, you weren't thinking of the outcome, how is your horse or your mule expected to know what you want if you don't even know what you want?
Hmm.
And I think that's a
I
huge thing I run into in my clinics is a lot of folks, you know, it's not that they're doing something wrong. It's just that they don't know what they want to do, or they don't understand what they should be doing or how to ask for that. They just kind of bop around, you know, and
and like, how fast do you want your mule to walk? Like, that's as simple as it gets. Did you want it a fast walk or a slow walk or a fast trot or a slow trot? It's as simple as that. And we've got a young girl that started working for us in January, and for her age, she's doing real good. She has she has been training on some of her own horses and stuff, and she does really good for her age. And some of these mules that are a little more complicated, like she can get a horse or loping around really good and moving off your legs and all that kind of stuff. Like she's getting it. It takes a little bit longer, but she gets it. And there's one particular mule that she's been working on and riding and it's good for the mule because she takes a long way around to go get the problem kind of fixed in a way, but then again it's bad in another way because if it takes longer, usually it sticks a little bit better in a way. Sometimes you go the short route and you really are black and white with them on what you want. It really makes sense to the mule too. It just depend on how they've been ridden before. If they've been punched around on, it's better for her to do it because she'll dumb them down and start retraining all that stuff better than I can because I'm like use a lot more timing and I'm like I want his mule to start slowing down, thinking more, and they just keep asking, get it wrong, and they're not asking them in a particular way, so these mules start thinking. But I asked her a lot the same question, like what this morning. It was just it's kind of funny you said that because this morning, she's been having problems with him. Just not big problem. Just when I say problem with the mule, it's more usually arena stuff, handiwork, all that kind of stuff. But this mule just finds a spook here every once in a while there, and that's why it was here. Just it's kind of a spooky mule and tore away from you and all that stuff. So I said, when you're doing this, like, what are you doing trying to get the mind off of whatever it's spooking and onto you and try to get hooked to it? And I ask her questions like that all the time, trying to get her mind spinning on why she's doing what. And I and in kind of what you were asking your people in the clinic, it's kind of funny that I was on the same topic this morning with her on what she was supposed to do. But
yeah.
yeah,
Do you know who Ray Hunt is?
yeah.
So, you know, Ray Hunt, he wrote a book called Think Harmony with Horses. Have you
Mhm.
ever read that?
I got the CD. I listen to it in the truck when I'm driving, but
Yeah, it's great, and I recommend it to all my students, you know, but,
yeah.
um, you know, people would ask him to autograph that book. They'd ask him to sign it, and he'd always write his name, you know, Ray Hunt, and then he'd write "Think." And I've seen multiple copies of the book signed like that, multiples of them. And you know that book, the whole focus is on thinking, and you know and that was one of his messages was to think. I never got the opportunity to go to one of his clinics live or anything, you know,
Hmm.
but I've known a lot of people that have, and I've tried to find every source possible of manuscripts from his clinics or home videos of his clinics, and he is so focused on getting his students thinking. It's so valuable, but I think so many of us just ride without, without thinking about it. And it's in the beginning, I guess thinking about stuff, it can be kind of challenging, because you're
Mhm.
not used to it. But now I can't ride without thinking. I just do it. It's just part of me. And but it's hard coming from like me, that's just the way I live now, to somebody that this is brand new. They're not used to that. In
Yeah.
my clinics, I'll get people thinking about the feet and, counting feet and stuff. And you've probably, I know you've watched a little bit when we are in Utah there, at,
Mhm.
Tropic, whatever. And, you see me having them count feet. And, you know, it's a lot of them, it's their first time. I'll say, how many of you, this is the first time you've ever thought about the feet or talked to the feet? And hands go up, yeah, they're not used to that. It's different, and but it makes such a difference. What else do you see in, what are some things that you do, in your personal mulemanship and horsemanship that, you try to help your customers with? What kind of things do you work on? What kind of things that do you pass on to them?
Well, it depends on the customer a lot, but some customers are really timid, and and this is for some customers that do the research and kind of listen to your everyday stuff that I sent to you. I don't have a YouTube library. I can say, okay, here's a video of so and so, and I said I'm going to do it this year, because I get a lot of people that, yeah, they watch you do it, but it's just not the same if I watch me do it and then watching you. We use different, little bit different words, and but for those customers, kind of lost track of mind there.
What
My
you're
brain
trying to
just
what are you
went
trying to
blank.
teach them?
Oh,
What are you trying to pass
well,
on to them?
what? There we go. I lost track of mind there. What I try to teach them is follow that stuff. I mean, if you think, okay, I'm not. How can I put this in words? I try to get them to think, kind of like you were saying, think. But I'm saying when they're doing groundwork and they're brand new to this stuff, and they're all you've seen it. Everybody at the clinic, if there's a first time doing groundwork, they're all disoriented. Like, especially if they're older, their hands are not in the right spot. This and that, and they're walking backwards instead of forward. All that stuff. Um, I say just stop, think through what you want to have do next, and then count 1, 2, 3, 4 in your brain. Get your brain spinning really, really slow. Slow everything down and keep asking and asking and asking. And if you think you're doing it correct, but it's just not happening, it's probably not the mule's fault. It's probably your fault. But stick to the plan the best that you know and your ability, and hang in there. Hang in there. Keep asking. And you see a slightest change in what you think is correct, stop. Just stand still. Stop. Don't even walk up to them and rub them. Just stop. And I said, just build from there. Every time you feel it come into a problem, just slow down, recap what happened. Think one very slow in your brain. One, get relaxed, get quiet. And it's crazy how many times you tell people to think really, really slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, instead of on high alert, count of 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what they're thinking. That's how their brain's spinning. 90% of the time, the mule just doesn't really act up. It just falls in place. So I try to and ask them. Probably that's probably a second thing just came to mind, is the biggest thing I probably say is the 10 or 20 small things you let your mule get away with is the biggest creates the biggest problem that you have. I said, like rushing through the gate. Well, that's just it did it once. We'll turn them out, let them loose. It didn't want to load the first time. We didn't really work on it. Then I got it, kind of tied, and somebody shoot it from the back. Just shoot it on the, shoot them on the trailer, and got it on. That's just another little problem. It it kind of walked over me a little bit here and there when we're at a new place. Well, that's just at a new place. Just 10 small things like that. I said builds up to your one big problem. I said I break it down. I had to go back and fix your 20 small problems to get your big problem. I said I don't even work on the big problem most of the time. I just do 20 small things. So that is actually probably the biggest thing. Don't let the small problems build up. 20 small problems build up into one big blow up. It's just that's how my thought of it is.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice, and so true. It's amazing how those little things can add up over time. And shoot, you just now you're having big problems. But if you would have just taken care of the small things, you've been good.
Yeah.
I also like how you have them slow it down. We have this we have this class that we do. It goes for 40 weeks. It's called our master class, the Ty Evans master class, and each month we do a virtual clinic on Zoom, and we get together. I teach them a few principles and things. And one of the things that we've been working on lately is there's a really good book called With Winning in Mind by Lanny Bassam. And in that book, he gives he gives some great advice, and he's training he's teaching people how to win. Okay, that's what the book's about.
Mhm.
And using your mind and the mindset that's involved. And one of the best lessons in there, I just love it, is he teaches his students how to rehearse and then actually do it and then rehearse again. And this is what we talked about in our master class meeting. We just had one last night. But how important it is to, okay, before you want to do it, whatever it is, moving the fronts, moving the hinds, trotting, loping, stopping, backing, whatever that is, before you do it, think about it, slow down, rehearse it, visualize it in your mind. What do you want to have happen? Not what you don't want to have happen, only thinking about what you want to happen. That's it. And
Mhm.
then you actually do it. And then after you do it, whether it went good, bad, or ugly, that doesn't matter. Then you rehearse it again. And that slowing down before and after is a game changer. And I've been having my masterclass students work at that. And the results are so stinking cool. So you're right on track with what I like, having them slow down, think about it. Everybody's in such a darn hurry.
Yeah. It's this morning I had a colt, and I get the same way where I am in the training mode of it, and there's things that need to be done. Our mules need to be riding a certain way. The least improvement we have to, and we get so caught up in reality. It's uh, the prime example is the hardest thing I ever had to do. Is when I started getting into training full time, and I guess that's kind of I really didn't really touch on that to start with, but I can later on if we want to get into it. But I did half a year where I worked a job and I worked half days um, to train horses and mules, and I used to work from 5 o'clock in the morning until 11:30 in the noon. Um, the biggest problem I had was coming home from work and training mules. If you want and not do it just for a hobby, do it for trying to make money, trying to grow a business. If you do it in that way, that was the hardest transition I ever had to make. Every day was a battle. Every single day was a battle. Your folks at work is getting things done, making your boss money, getting, or that's how I'm driven. It's just, you work for the guy, they pay you, you make stuff happen. And getting home from that and getting into the mule zone or the mules world, and it's just whenever they kind of there's times where you tell them to do some stuff, depending on what the mule is doing, or move. You're going to move your hinds or stuff like that. But most of the time, you're asking questions and slowing yourself down into that environment. It was a struggle for me, and it's still a struggle to this day in the training world. Like if I go in the evening and ride one of our own mules, like I I work on this and that. I have no expectations of them. Zero. I expect nothing from them. And if it happens, great, we'll work on it. But I'm just playing. Like I'm not in that training mind. Like, okay, we need to get this done so this customer has this. We have as trainers, it's just to a certain level, you have to almost, you have to push them as far as you possibly can to get the biggest results so you can do better in your training, better reputation, more money. It's just all in that business mode. But that's the hard part for me, is slowing down and rethinking it. I
Yeah.
don't know, that rambling a little bit there, but
No,
that's the
it's good. It's
hard
good stuff,
part.
man. If you want to be successful in this, sometimes the slower you go, the faster you get there. And
Yeah.
it's a hard lesson to teach people. It's hard to share that and have them actually understand it. I mean, I say it, and a lot of people go, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, no, no, really, like you got to slow down. And it doesn't fit the culture, because everybody wants everything right now. And so
Yeah.
it's definitely challenging for them to actually do that. And, I mentioned our master class deal, a huge part of that, and you're probably not familiar, but every week I send out basically a module of assignments to do, and there'll be movements, to work on, maneuvers to work on. And in each maneuver, I'll have like, focus points, common problems, and then recommended reps. And, usually it's not like doing 100 reps of it. It's like 2 to 3, 2 to 5.
Hmm.
And people are like, really? That's all I should do? Try to just do 2 to 5 reps of backing up? I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's all I want you to do today. As far as backing up goes, just a 2 to 5, 2 or 3 reps. That's it. And they go, wow, okay. Because they're used to like, well, we better hammer this thing out. We got to do 500 of them to get it right. And I'm like, that's not the way mulemanship and horsemanship work. People forget, you got to build the muscle on these things. And
Oh yeah.
I talk a lot about that in my classes, and okay, it's like me making you go, all right, we're gonna go bench press, a couple of 100 pounds, and I want you to do 50 reps of it. Okay, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna hurt yourself if you actually can do it. Likely,
Yeah.
we couldn't do it, but you're gonna hurt yourself. And but if I say, okay, just do a 2 or 3 reps of this much weight, okay, that's probably more manageable, and we can build muscle over time, build technique, build understanding, and also build some mental stamina. You got to build your own confidence. Like, hey, your brain needs to know you can do this stuff. And I think it's the same thing with horses and mules. You got to build up that confidence in them mentally and physically. I want my mule to know they can do it. So I don't ask them to do anything that I don't know that they can do. They can do it for sure if I ask it. So
Yeah. Um, that muscle part of it. We've got a lady that treats her mules and stuff. The mules that um we take to the sale, to the sale in Utah, and basically all our personal mules, they get treatments every so often, and especially before the sale. There's not a lameness step in them, but we've been riding them for 4, 5, 6 months and pretty consistent. Like we're working them, pretty hard. And it's just like you were saying, like going for a workout. I mean, if you do it day after day after day, you're going to get sore. You're going to get body sore. You're going to get hurt. And we do give them treatments. It's not, I mean, it's more massage than anything else, just working with the muscles and the fibers and all that stuff. But we've seen a huge difference even in that, getting them healthy, and not just the mules yourself, like me. Like you get banged up, or you're riding a colt for the first time and it kicks out and getting snapped around, and you're walking around kind of a little stiff today, and things shift in your body. If you get a treatment here, every so often, if you're healthy, it's just you feel like riding. You feel good. You don't. Your seat is a lot better. Your shoulders aren't slouched forward. Biggest habit I have is slouching my shoulders forward. But I'm riding so many of these colts, starting these colts, and I'm a lot of times I'm more up here for, I guess, being more ready for them, more control. It's not like I can just sit back and just do one hand and just cruise around. We have to be kind of ready and moving, and so you're always a little bit different seat for the first 5 to 8 rides, or that's how it is for me, or 10 rides. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
slouching back and not being ready. I don't care how laid back the horse is or mule. As soon
Yeah.
as you let your guard down is when you're getting bucked off or hurt.
Yeah, if you feel good, you'll ride good. That's a great lesson
Yeah.
for everybody. But hey man, I've taken a lot of your time today, and I appreciate you doing this. It's been dang good talking to you. At the end of all my podcasts, all my shows, I always ask my guests if they had one piece of advice for the audience, for these folks that are taking this mulemanship journey, this journey called life, where they're going down the road, living this life. What piece of advice would you give them? What would you tell them?
Well, I've been thinking about that a little bit. Um, for me, I guess what drove me I'm just going to go on my aspect. What helped me the most. Um, I used to be the type of person that was like, if my mule just plops down the trail and just a good old trail mule, and just that's all I cared about. And that was up until I even seen you riding out in Tennessee there in the clinic, and that helped me a lot and give me motivation, and I already kind of started on that way already, but I was still in kind of the mind frame. Well, if I can side pass just a little bit, I'm fine. But it's it's kind of like you're driving a brand new truck or brand new car, and it has all these features like heated seat, heated steering wheel, all these features that feel good when cold middle of the winter. You get out there, you start the truck, put your seat on, and well, you don't even go out. You just hit it from being inside the house. You got all these good features and makes it so easy and so comfortable in that truck. Your mule could be the same way. Um, I mean, how easy would it be if you wouldn't have to get off from your mule, open up a gate so you can get through? Um, and not everybody's driven that way. I know that, but if people are, the more you learn, more. I mean, I don't get around to go to clinics and as much as I like to, but learn from people. I mean, just analyze people when you're riding, analyze people when you're out trail riding. How does their horse look? How does their mule look? Are they worked up? And is my mule doing the same thing as them? And take that as drive yourself. That's one thing that drives me is just being better and better and better and better and better every day, and just work on it. Just don't worry about having it right now. Just work on getting better. Um, it's definitely worth it. I mean, I'm from where I'm at now. I can't wait for 10 years from now. I mean, age wise, I don't hope for it, but I mean, as far as my riding skills and just to see where I'm at and take fun in it. I mean, get people your friends involved with it and challenge each other, and you know get out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's worth it. It's getting it's like sitting in that new truck I was saying. Just if you've got it, you don't need to show people that you've got it. But if you sit on that mule and you can do a spin and lope off and doing all that stuff, while you watch the other people's mules kind of struggle with them, and you know hard to load and all that stuff. Use that as just be the guy beside the person who has a hard to load mule, and just stand back 5 feet and just send your mule on the trailer. That's the rewarding part for me, and it's definitely worth it for me, for learning. Education is it's it's the best tool you can have.
Heck yeah, man. Those are some great words of advice, just and obviously I'm a huge fan of learning. I love to learn. I'm always trying to learn, always trying to be better, trying to ride with people that are way better than I am. And it brings me up. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. You should, I believe you should surround yourself with people that push you and humble you. And so, I mean, I'm always trying to learn. So that's great advice.
I
So
guess one other thing I really would have liked to get out there was, you said the slowest route. Some way different look at it is another kind of advice to throw out there. Is if you give a lazy man a hard job, he'll find an easy way to do it. And if you would take your mule out there and try to find the easiest way to do it, and that is with timing, with giving the right release at the right time, focus on that timing, and being just for once, go out on your mule and think about being lazy and getting things done. How can I get things done and be lazy at the same time? I guess that's another advice I would have. Just be lazy in a certain way.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I like that. I like that quote. What was it? Give a lazy man a hard job and he'll find an easy way to do it. Hey,
That's exactly why we
that's
have
a
trucks and cars and
yep.
tractors and all that stuff. So
That's a mic drop quote right there, man. That's great. Hey, I'm gonna let you go. How can folks find more information about you and Lost Mule Company and all that? You got social media? You got anything that folks can find you on or
I've got Facebook under my name, Leon Raber. I do also have a Lost Mule Company page, but you can get me on Messenger on there. We did download TikTok. We might do some of those videos. And this year, I just got married this year, so my wife helps me every afternoon. So we'll be trying to do more videos, but right now we're just trying to get into this married life and making a living and do that stuff. But hopefully in the future we'll have some videos for some people maybe on YouTube. But if you want to get a hold of me, it's on Facebook and message me. Give me a call. And you can get my number through there on Facebook and give me a call, ask me questions. I'd
awesome.
rather do that than ask her, have people message me. Just give me a call.
Cool. Heck yeah, Leon. Well, I appreciate you being on here, my friend. To everybody listening, if you guys would be so kind as to give us a rating, the more ratings we get, the more reviews we get on this show, the more people get to learn from it, and that's what this is all about: spreading education and helping people out. So, give us a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it. Also, we love feedback, so we'd love to hear from you. I'll pass on any feedback I get about this show to Leon, and we look forward to hearing from you guys. You can also find more information about what we do, tsmules.com. And of course, like we just said, you can find Leon on Facebook, Leon Raber, or look up Lost Mule Company. Appreciate you guys listening today. God bless you all, and we'll see you down the road.